life is learning and learning is life, and family is a part of that. And it's so intertwined. And I don't view them as separate,
And I
really. I
think,
don't.
how
It's
long
so
did it take
deep
you to
in.
learn that?
Oh, okay. Welcome to the Homeschool Perspective, where seasoned homeschooling moms share tips, insights, and resources to empower your homeschool journey. Before we get into today's episode, I just want to remind you that this is part 2 of a longer episode. So if you haven't listened to part 1 yet, I suggest going back, listening to that episode, and then coming back and getting into this one.
How do you set goals for your kids and track them? Like, how do you set those objectives? Allie's
I just
gonna
do it in my head. I just do it in my head. I kind of have a goal for each of them. I've tried to be better this year, actually, about writing it down. I've got my planner, and I do write down, not goals for them personally, like their personal goals, like that I want to see, like character development, all of that kind of thing. I don't write that down, but I do write their academic, like what I want to happen this year academically for them. But most of it's in my head, and I just kind of track it by what I see. But like I said, I make adjustments all throughout the year. So I just am a little more loosey-goosey about that. We do have to track academic, goal, like what we're doing. We have to do some things for the state that we're in. So I do that. I don't know. It's more of personal goals and family goals. I've got the goals that I want to see happen in my kids as a family and then as individuals. And if we get through like those things that I set out at the beginning of the year, like I set yearly goals, like I want to get through this much of the curriculum or this part of the curriculum or this study or this unit or these things. And then, I don't know, constantly reflect on those, but it's a little more loosey-goosey for me as expected, right?
I was going to say, and as expected, I have a system.
I am sure you do.
I have a system. So we sit together as a family. We set family goals together. And then we have a meeting with each kiddo, and together we set their academic, personal. And then my oldest is super into business. So he sets like a professional goal as well. And then everyone keeps those in their spot, either in their binder or in their room, wherever they like to see it best, so that they can be reflecting. And then we check in quarterly. And if we need to adjust those, we do. So, but again, I feel like it's because my brain just can't hold it all. So I think it's awesome. I think it's amazing that you can keep it and like keep things going in that way. I have to put it externally. And then I have kids that really benefit from like, they need it externally too. Like they need to see it regularly. So that's how we do it. And we do set academic goals, but we always do it with the kids. So there's been less than a handful of times where like my husband and I have had almost like an undercover, like a covert goal for a kid. We usually do those in partnership with them, even our little one. So it's a conversation that we're having. And then when, we look for ways to like, when we're doing our learn and love at the end of the day, it's like, well, wait a minute. Hey, that's, getting you closer to this, or, we try to bring it back in. But that's usually how we do it. We do it in partnership with our kids or as a family. I mean, obviously my husband and I have personal goals that we keep just for ourselves or like just for the two of us. But by and large, we do it as a team and then check in quarterly.
I do love that you include them in that, because then they can take ownership of that. And that's probably something I'm going to take from you and start incorporating. I don't know. I haven't thought about including them in creating their own academic goals. And I think that that's really smart. Even just to have, I'll still keep it in my brain. I won't write it down, but they can write it down if they want. But just to have them feel that ownership of of having this goal and working to achieve it. Like that's growth mindset, right? Like that is just teaching them through practice how to have a growth mindset, how to change by setting goals and working to achieve them. I love that.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's definitely been helpful for us. And then having my husband and I do it alongside. So while there are things that are just for us, but they see us working towards goals at the same time, because they always want to mimic mommy and daddy, right? So it's like, having us do it as well and be in conversation about that, I think helps reinforce how they can use those goals. Because it's so easy for goals to be words on a paper or words in your head, right? And not an action. So I don't know. It's something that mindset piece is something we've definitely made a forefront. And it's even like a part of our family mission statement for our homeschool is that piece.
I like that.
What about you, Lisa?
So, I mean, obviously we each have our own systems because you're in your head, Allie's on our whiteboard or on paper, and I'm a verbal processor. So this is probably not surprising that we talk about it. But what we do is not like annual. So I guess it is annual, but not all together at the same time. I take each kid out on their birthday for a lunch with me. And then we might go to the park or wherever and we talk. And I see, like, what was your favorite part of this last year? Here are the things that I saw you grow in as a person. This is what I loved with you and seeing you do. Now I'm curious, what would you like to grow into this year? What skill would you like to learn? What character trait would you like to develop? What's something you're wrestling with that you'd like to bring to peace? Any of those questions. And then usually the conversation leads to other things. And I do that with each of them, usually starting around 6 or 7 years old. And it's so funny because I stop when they turn like 18, kind of trying to respect the fact that I'm their mom and they're adults now. And my two older ones both came to me. They're like, so when are we going to do my birthday lunch? And I was like, oh, well, you guys are like adults now. And they're like, so this is tradition. So that's how we do it. And then we always take the year, the last week of the year from December 26th to January 1st as like a Sabbath week. And I encourage the kids to be introspective and to think and just to enjoy all of their blessings and think about the year and kind of wrap it up. And they get to watch me journal and do that. I'm very intentional that week.
Can you explain what a Sabbath week is?
Yeah.
Like what that means?
So Sabbath is a biblical principle of rest. And according to the way God set it up with creation, he worked for 6 days and on the seventh day he rested. And I think, Rachel, you school this way, and we do too, where we'll go 6 weeks and then take a down week. And we might not take the whole week off, but it's like catch up or projects or crafts or kind of fun learning. And we keep this rhythm going. But the holidays always get so busy and hectic that no matter what, even if it's not the seventh week, we take that last week of the year off and we just rest and we focus on our blessings. We focus on family. So it's family and faith and friends. And we just pour into people and try to make intentional connections with people that we might have gotten too busy to see because of things that we were doing and tell them what we love about them. It's a time of intentionally verbally thanking other people or sending notes, things like that for us. So our goals are kind of more intangible, but they're the important ones for our family culture.
I love the birthday lunch.
I do too.
This is such a great idea.
I do too. And I love that we can do at least for us, I know some people, it gets a little hectic. I've got different months of the year, right? Like we can, it's not all going to happen at the same time. Like I've got an April, a May and a June and a September for my kids. So, but at least it's like one a month, and not like they're all in June, but you can take them out. They already feel special around their birthday and they already have that special connection with you through birth or adoption, but they have that connection and it's just such a great time to do that. It's such a great built-in anchor. And I love finding those things, like you were saying, the last week of the year. That's a built-in anchor. Birthdays, built-in anchor, like beginning of the school year, New Year's, like New Year's Day or the end of the school year, just built-in anchors for reflection, for celebration, for setting goals, reflecting on past goals. And I don't know, I love that. I think that's a big takeaway here is like finding those anchors, the end of the day at dinner time or at bedtime. Those things that are already things that you're doing in your schedule, they're already there. So you might as well use them and attach something else, a time of reflection or a time of setting goals and all of that, setting that and attaching it to something that you're already doing as part of your normal rhythm, whatever it looks like, whether it's in your head or, verbally processing or writing it down on a whiteboard. There's a way to do it that works for everybody's personality.
That makes it fun for the James Clear book. It's Atomic Habits, right?
Well, I haven't read it. But listen, But listen,
I'm listening.
it was in our little free library that we have in our neighborhood. So I totally snagged that, and I'm going away for the weekend, and that's my next read.
Life-changing book.
I've heard
if anybody listening to this is how are you doing that? Like, that book, so practical, so helpful. And Rachel, it's going to be funny. You're going to be reading it and be like, wait, this is exactly what I just said.
I know that is one of his principles. Like, I know that that principle did come from his book, but I didn't learn it. I don't know, probably the person I learned it from read it in the book, like these things get passed along.
No, I love it though. I just thought, I'm like, that is such a beautiful, like, you did it so perfectly, like tied up in a bow. It makes it so much easier, because when it's connected to something you already do, it's a lot easier to stick to. When you try to make things happen out of thin air, like the baby books, I'm sorry, that's unnatural. I mean, amazing that people can do it. I'm so happy for you. And I think it's beautiful.
Taking pictures of your baby, so you might as well take a video of them doing their first walk. I'm not going to write that down. It's time-stamped.
It's time-stamped. The best thing ever. Yes.
I think I'm the mom here with the oldest kids, right? So
yeah.
I got a digital camera when I had kids, and it broke. So we have kids we have no pictures of. Oh, no. We didn't get smartphones until we were 4 kids in, maybe 5. So I'm laughing so hard because it's still not natural for me, y'all. Like, I'm still learning. I'm the old dog, and this is a new trick.
That's awesome.
But one thing I want to touch on, we're talking about methods and goals and reaching them and reflecting and all the things. One thing James Clear said that's super powerful is that winners and losers have the same goals. The difference is that winners have systems. And I have systems. You, because like
you have systems. You just have an amazing ability to keep it in your head. It's awesome.
All of a sudden, I just thought I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'm a loser.
But it's like, as parents, if we just went like, I'm gonna have kids who graduate with great grades and value education and are totally awesome humans. And then we check out for their whole childhood and forget to curate their education and be a part of it, and just hand them a stack of workbooks and wonder why they don't love learning, right? Like, where was our system? And it doesn't mean that your system's not always changing and adapting, because kids always change and adapt. Oh my goodness, we have 8 of them. You would think we knew what we were doing by now. And the youngest one still surprises us on the daily.
Yeah, unfortunately, none of them are the same.
No, they're not. Well, I joke because there are 16 personality types according to Myers Briggs, and we have 8 kids. You'd think that we had half of them covered, but no. 3 of us are INTJs, which makes life so interesting to have such similar people who all speak the same language. And then these people over here who might as well speak a foreign language, because we're like, what do you mean by that? But we have this system of family culture and these anchor points, and that's the system, Rachel. Like, that's what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And this is the system that helps us reach our goals. And no matter how we set them, no matter how we implement them, these touch points, they're the system. And I think this is one of the most liberating things for us as moms, to recognize that the system is showing up, loving your kids, and doing your best. And accepting that there are days when you can't do that either. Right. And that's okay too.
There's seasons.
There are seasons, and leaning into that. Now, when I asked about goals, we all 3 of us gravitated towards more intangible things. Did you guys notice that?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that's where my value is, right? I feel like that's, the other stuff comes when character and relationships are primary. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like, if you're building on that, and that's where you're emphasizing your energy, your time, even your celebrations, the other stuff kind of falls in line naturally. Don't you guys think? Like, then it's like, the math and the reading and the history and the writing, like, that falls in when you have somebody who's excited to learn, who loves, when you have a strong relationship with them, when you have built those traits of grit. And you know what? I think that's why, because it's like, over time you realize when you have the goal of we're going to master our multiplication tables, and it's like, yeah, you can have that goal and you can absolutely achieve it. It's a lot easier to achieve it when you have a great relationship with your kiddo and you know how they learn and you know how to make them excited about it. And when that kiddo feels like they have a say in how that goes and that they can actually achieve something that may feel impossible to start with. So I don't know. Maybe I segued on that one, but I feel like that's why.
No, I love that. But how do you, like Rachel, for example, because you could do some amazing things with your kids. I love watching what you do, and I learn from you. You're helping me be more of a hands-on mom. Actually, you're helping me have kids who are hands-on, and I don't have to be.
That's it.
It's a match made in heaven. I'm so glad we found each other. I love that. But how do you track this development? So one of the things that we mentioned is our goals are largely intangible, but we do have to have kids that academically progress year after year because we do have a responsibility to our children. So how do you identify that academic growth? And then also, how do you identify that personal growth? What are you doing?
I do it in my head.
You think about it?
But no, for myself, I do have a goal for my kids academically. Now I know where my kids are. I know where their cognitive aptitude is. I know what they are capable of, and I'm going to push them academically. And we have different personalities that fit within those expectations. So one of my goal, like the intangible goal is, this is a tangible goal. My goal and my expectation for my kids is to get through one level of math each year. That is 100% attainable for my children. That's not always the case for all children. And I don't think that should be the expectation for everybody. But my kids are definitely capable. However, I've got 3 kids actually, who absolutely love math, and they will do multiple lessons a day and they get it easily and they don't need my help and they don't need, they'll come to me if they need help and they'll ask questions and I'm there checking their work and it's easy. And I have one child who is trying to get out of as much work as possible on the daily, 100% falls behind the track, hey, this is our goal for the year, 2 chapters, every 6 weeks. In that way, you'll be on track in 6 weeks, you'll be done with this book. Okay, mom, let's do it. Year after year, it doesn't happen. So it's, that's my expectation for that child, is to help them with the intangible goal more of, working hard, working through, when something is hard, coming for help and, or here's how you find the answers, or here's how you get help when you need it, and working through those things so that you can stay on track, so you can meet that goal of staying on track. And if not, the natural consequences of, well, now, we're just going to work every day this summer and we're going to get this done, because my goal for next year is that you're going to get through that next level and you can't start the next year behind what our expectation is. So, in homeschooling, we always say you're never behind. You're always right where right where you're meant to be. You'll learn, the kids will learn when they're ready. And you know what? To some extent, that's true. But we also have to be the driver there and work on those, like what Allie was saying, those character things that go behind this. You can't just say, oh, they'll learn it when they're ready and it's all and they're just magically gonna learn it. Like sometimes there's like some headbutting, especially when you have, the kid that digs in his heels and is like, I'm not doing math today and I'm not doing it. And it's like, well, over the course of several weeks, saying that a couple times a week, you're off track of your goal, and so I think having expectations and having those goals for your kids, like my expectation is that we get through X amount of material this year and you're not on track. So we need to make a new strategy to get yourself, back on track. So, but you know what, those things can be different. You don't have to have, if you get to the end of the year and you're like, ugh, we didn't, we're halfway through the science unit as a family and I don't want to homeschool all summer, you can close it up and you can put it on the shelf for next year and you can modify and make things, or you could do fun experiences that kind of tie in with the learning. and make it different. You don't have to do it just the way that the curriculum says you have to, that they've laid out. They've laid that out as a tool. And so there's lots of different ways of going about it. But for just for math, for that particular situation, that's my expectation. And that's what I want my kids to achieve each year. Not just for the academic, although I know they're going to need that, to get, to the next level, because it all builds, but it's the practice of completing something as well.
Yeah. Is it about
I feel like
for you?
Well, yeah, it is for me. But I was thinking 2 thoughts I had while you were talking. I'm like doggy on a dashboard over here. Yep. Like she's yes. But I think there's a part of it, especially on the academic side, where you do want to come into it with that, like, beginning with the end in mind idea. Like, you do want to have an idea of, maybe this happens when you're choosing curriculum too, but like looking at like, what are the skills that are really important for them to have and know. I have a friend that texted me the other day. I love her to pieces, but she texted me and she goes, but like, how important is math? And I'm like, well, what math are we talking about here? Because, there's a lot to consider. Do you want universities to be open? Like, is university a potential thing that you want to be going for? Is this, or a door you want open to your kiddo? Is this something, is your kiddo really into computer science? Like, there's so many things to consider as far as what we want to cover. But I think when you begin with the end in mind and really clearly, like, I want my child by the end of this year, like the book is covering majority multiplications in my head right now, but like it's covering multiplication. And, by the end of this book, they're supposed to be able to do, quadruple digit multiplication. And it's like, okay, well, that's the end goal. Like, that's my end goal. And I know that that's the goal. Well, then it's a lot easier for me to make adjustments through the year of, like, ooh, we need to go deeper. We need to spend more time. Oh, we can skip through this. You've mastered it. We can move on, because I have a singular goal in my head of what the outcome is supposed to be for that. Because frankly, I think we've already established this, but like, we break the rules here. Like, the three of us break the rules.
I was just going to say, Allie, we had that math book and we threw it in the trash can. And we like at that exact same point because the end goal was multi-million digit multiplication would be.
You're like, book, that is not my goal.
It did not happen in the 3rd grade, and we threw it in the trash can and switched. So
you do know what curriculum I'm talking about. So, but it's true. Well, and that's okay. Like, that's the thing. It's like, your goal doesn't have to be what the curriculum writer made. We're all curriculum writers, and we can tell you that we're totally cool with that. But I think you have to know what the goal is for you, for your kiddo, and then adjust as needed so that you get there. But when you don't know what the actual end goal is, I feel like it's just so easy to get stuck in the weeds and not actually get there.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking when you were talking was about our unschoolers. And I'm like, our unschoolers are like, wait a minute. But I think there's a caveat to unschoolers in that they do let kids develop at their own pace, but they're not left to their own devices. No. I always say to people, unschooling requires even more preparation and because you have to be constantly putting a child in the way of things to learn, to discover, to uncover. But I don't know, when you were talking, I was like, I'm like, anybody who's like a new unschooler or doesn't like, they might like butt clench in that moment. Sorry. Inappropriate. You know what I mean? But really, like, wait a minute. And the thing is, like, no, it's still true. Like, unschoolers may do that. Like, they do lead with the child taking, but they have to be putting that stuff and that. So they are actively working on their child's academic growth in a totally different way. Sure. And again, I think it just goes back to knowing what the end goal is. What is your end goal in that moment so you can make those adjustments?
I love that.
So, we had a plan for today, and being us and the rule breakers that we are, we like hopped over questions and circled back and everything. But there's one question that I was really excited to ask y'all. Okay. And that is, how important do you think it is to have that connection and support in the family for our kids' academic homeschooling success? We talked so much about those intangible goals and relationships and family and things like that. And then we talked about homeschooling like it was over here. But we also talked about how it all connects. So how important do you think that family relationship is for their success?
I don't know. It's so intertwined.
That's
like it is like I was saying before, like life is learning and learning is life, and family is a part of that. And it's so intertwined. And I don't view them as separate, really.
And
I don't. It's
how long
so
did it take
deep.
you to learn that?
Oh, okay.
Right, because we're talking to moms who have been doing this as long as we have. So be honest.
So when my oldest was homeschooling, it was very separate. We had our school time, and then we had playtime. And let me tell you, by the time, no, it was bad. And because every time we sat down and I was school mama, that my oldest is a little like stubborn and hard-headed, and if he didn't like it, then he didn't like it. And we started butting heads during that school time, and it became a fight. And I wrestled with it for a while, and my next child is 2 years. So I was trying some different strategies, trying to pull in some different things, like adjusting and things all along. But when my second child became school age, the way he learns is so, so different. I don't know if I should share this on the podcast, but we called our homeschool Poop Academy for a long time, because he would take books to the bathroom and he would read and read and read. And that's how he learned. That's how he learns like so much stuff, is Poop Academy. So,
whatever works. I mean,
he was learning. He was my learner along the way, and he just learned. He did not like formal sit down learning. Mm-hmm. And so when he started the homeschool, and he didn't fit into what me and my oldest were struggling to maintain, he broke it all to pieces, and it went down. And I said, okay, we are doing this different. And we would start every day with just playing all together. I made them all stay in the same room and play. And I set my whole, like that homeschool room up like a kindergarten classroom. Like we had centers. Yep. And they would just bounce around from the different centers. And it was all hands-on. It was all what they wanted to do. It was all interest-led. And then I would pull them aside and I would like teach them something. And then I'd be like, okay, go see what you can do with that. And I just tried to, teach it in a different way. And then we'd be out, and it would naturally just work into our natural rhythm, what we were naturally doing. So I had to burn it all to the ground. And then we were able to, do interest-led for a while. And then I could slowly add back in systems that fit with our family. And so it's been, I guess, 5 years of doing that now, since that second child started school. And now that's how we homeschool. But it was because I had to burn it all to the ground, because I was struggling to make it work with my first. With the second, I just burned it to the ground and started over.
Did you do that too, Allie? Did you start one way and end another?
So I am, as much as I'm a systems person, I am very much a systems breaker as well. And I was homeschooled for a large part of for the ending of my high school. And then I got 3 credentials. I taught in different schools and systems. So from the beginning, I was like, this will look nothing like school. It was from the beginning. Because instantly when you were talking about this and you asked this question, I pictured, and I'm sure you guys have seen people do this, where they're like taking off the mom hat, putting on the teacher hat, it's different now. And I think that the reality is that a lot of that comes out of our own, feeling uncomfortable. It's like, right. We're not sure. This is such a high stakes situation. We are taking on our children's education. It's a huge deal. And so but it feels that way.
It does.
And it's so stressful. So I think even though I came in with it and I was like, this will look nothing like school, I still had those same voices that had to be burned down to the ground, and it came out in different ways. So for me, it was going way over the top with the Montessori bookshelf with the unit study Montessori. You remember what I'm talking about? Yep. Uh-huh. And the Charlotte Mason books and the feast laid before, and just so much stuff.
And that was mine too with my oldest. That was what he was digging his heels against. And I was like, I thought I was doing this so differently, because I said the same thing, being a teacher and having that teacher background. Mm-hmm. I was like, this is going to look different. It's going to be fun. It's going to be blah, blah, blah. And it was still It didn't. We had to burn it to the ground. All right. I'm sorry. Continue.
No, but
Yeah.
you're dead on. I think every single homeschooling, I feel like we could say every single homeschooling parent has gone through at least some semblance of having to burn it to the ground, because there's just stuff that you have to get rid of, get pushed out of your brain, so that you can actually see the humans in front of you and who you are and what works best for you. Because, oh boy, I was going to be the Pinterest homeschool mom. I was the Pinterest homeschool mom for those first couple years. Oh, you go back in my Pinterest, like you will find all the things, all the cute, all the pre-cut out. I was staying up at night and prepping all this stuff, which my children did not appreciate. Like it wasn't, it wasn't their jam. And finally got to a place where I recognized, like, I'm never going to be able to sustain this ever. And they're not that into it. So, but you're right. You got to burn it down. Sometimes you just have to try the wrong way so you can be open to the right way. Not that there's like one right way, but the right way for you.
Right way for your family.
Right. I was hit the nail on the head when you said, when you stop looking at the things in front of you so you can see the humans. And I think that's what each one of our journeys was. We let go of our preconceived ideas about education. And we started focusing on educating our kids, like each kid individually. And that was the change. So how do you bring celebration into your family?
This is my
Rachel, that's all you, right?
Like, I just went in her eyes. Like, Rachel, take it away. This is going to be good.
Okay. So we love celebrating, and I love building this in because it helps my kids work towards that goal. So I told you about the personal goal that we have in our family for finishing a math book each year. When you finish the book, we bake a cake. Okay. We have a cake. If you finish your math book, you get a cake. So we've got 2 cakes that are needing to be made this week. And because two of my kids just finished their math books for the year. And so that's just something that we do. That's a fun celebration. We bake a cake. And you know what? They're baking the cake and they're using math and fractions and all of that to bake this cake. So we're still learning. And then when we do our literature units, every week we do a book club tea is what I call it. And that's when we sit down and we have tea and we talk about the book that we're reading. We talk about the grammar lessons that can be learned and all of we do some work. Like we sit down and we do work, but it makes it more fun because we're doing it together. And at the end of the book, we do some sort of meal or we go out together to celebrate that book. So we have read Skunk and Badger, and we do Skunk and Badger breakfast like all the time because they eat well in that book. Like Skunk is a good cook. And then if we ever have cold cereal in a cold bowl with cold milk, then we're having a Badger breakfast. So it's like these little traditions that we build in to not just the end of the year, but different things like that we incorporate for celebrating throughout the year. Because we do several book clubs a year. And even just calling it a book club is way more fun than just saying we're doing a read aloud as a family and doing some like copy work and stuff going along with it. It's a book club. We're learning about the book. We're getting together with tea and discussing it. And it makes it more fun. And then we go out to celebrate at the end. And I try to make that themed as well because it's just more fun. So we go out for breakfast at the end of Skunk and Badger, so stuff like that.
I'm stealing that idea. We're starting book club. Like it's official. We're going to have our first one this summer.
There you go.
No, that's something too that we can do year round because it doesn't feel so much like work.
So what did you guys take away from today? What was your favorite thing? I mean, I'm taking book club. I'm so excited about that. Because you know what? I had this secret dream when I was like a teenager of growing up and being an adult who went to book club meetings. I never found people who love books as much as my children do. We're going to have so much fun with this.
Yeah.
You made your book club.
I did.
Oh my goodness.
Major people.
Literally.
Oh my goodness. So many good things to take away. Birthday lunch is something and now we are so close to the end of 2 math books that I am going to be offering that cake today. That is going on the list. But I think my biggest takeaway and the thing that I love most is that through trial and error, we all ultimately come to the same place of like, when you focus on the relationship and the character of your kids, and the little people in front of you who then become big people, that homeschooling just is so much more integrated into your life. It's so much more joyful and it works so much better. Like, I love how we all just we went through the process, we burned it all down, but ultimately we come to the same place of relationship first, character first, like integrating homeschool into life. Rachel, what did you say? Life is learning, learning is life,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Like, you get to that place where it just becomes a seamless part of who you are as a family. And then these little traditions, these shared experiences become these sources of joy, and they're all related to learning. It's chef's kiss perfect how it just all comes together in like such a sweet way. Yeah. I think that's my takeaway today.
And I think to add on to that, I shared my takeaways a little bit earlier, but I think to add on to what you just said, Allie, was that it's different for every family and it's unique. Like, we all have done this. We all track our goals. We all plan our homeschools in different ways. We all sit down and celebrate our goals in different ways. But it's unique, but we all do it. And it's unique to our families. And even like what you were saying before about the unschooler, like people who unschool, like, yeah, no, I wasn't saying that the unschoolers need to do it that way.
Yeah, of course.
If you are an unschooler, you have your own way of doing that. And it's giving yourself that permission to be the person you are and the family you are, whether you are totally in the chaos doing everything in your head, or you've got that whiteboard, or you're celebrating the moments in the moment, like, it's unique for your family and it's the way that it should be for you. Like, what you're doing, like, yep, you've got this.
Yep. I think that's the beauty. I mean, we kind of talked about this in our last episode too, that it's celebrating where you're at. It's your journey, your family's journey. And whatever your goals are, however you keep them, however you track them, as long as you celebrate them, as long as you recognize that you're doing it your way, it doesn't have to look like anybody else's story.
But you can definitely take some ideas like birthday breakfast and make them your own.
We're gonna have fun with this. I love it. And I hope that if you're listening and you have some ideas that you want to share, you drop them in the comments, because we want to hear what you're doing too. So
we want more ideas.
Give us some. This is great. So thank you so much. And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.